paradigm of the way in which we are addressing the management of these kind of commodities. So from that perspective, maybe it would be good. I don't know how you want, but I was preparing something to introduce regarding the energy paradigm. Would you like to wait for this presentation and then continue with your point regarding the environmental conditions and relations of the energy and water, or would you like to start with that?
It's up to you. I'm totally fine with both. You can start. My intention is to present this new initiative of UNSDSN, the Global Climate Hub, that focuses on decarbonization pathways. And I think it's very connected to what you are going to say about the energy transition. So you can start and then I can follow. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I shall also select some of the slides. The whole presentation will be here available for the professors. It is Friday afternoon here in Azerbaijan. I don't want to take too much of your time, but as I said, we are in a very special moment of the history, and this is fantastic that we have the chance to live this moment of history when a way of let's say thinking, a way of addressing the resources from the environment is now fundamentally changing. So in this context, first of all, I would like to draw your attention. Just 1 second. Yes, I want to draw your attention with the maybe, okay. So the basic idea from where we are starting is that we are, let's say, in a world very crowded. So when I was born, I don't want to say when I was born, the population global wide, it was 3 billion. Nowadays, we are passing 7.6 billion population. So only in my lifetime, and I look very young, isn't it? So in my lifetime, the population increased and is getting, let's say, to that huge amount. So the population, the demographic aspect is not only about growing, is about the changing as a structure. So we have regions with very young population and we have regions with aging population. And there are regions that are, let's say, attracting. There are regions that are depopulated. So all these processes have a huge impact on different processes. So if we look here, the trend of the increase of population is following the trends of increasing pollution, the trends of depleting resources, the trends of, let's say, different disparities in the society. So the whole complexity, if we accept or not, is connected with this issue. And then we have this figure that I'm sure that all of us, we are familiar with. So you can see there from 100 units of resources, we are using actually at the end user less than 10%. So 90% of the resources that we are using are dissipated into the environment, are dissipated into the different systems that are related. And of course, this is generating a huge, some huge consequences. So the consequences are twofold. So from one side, we need more and more resources for such a high speed growing demographics. So for that, you can see in the bottom of this figure that very soon it will be not enough, the resources of not only one Earth, but 3 Earth in the coming decade. And on the other side, the second aspect of this is that the pollution is becoming that complex that is affecting all aspects of the environment, from, let's say, the cleanliness of air, of water, of soil, and all these aspects. So the next issue is about, let's say, the impact of some of these pollutants on the environment. And here we are talking about the impact of CO2 and the greenhouse effect. The greenhouse effect, which is a fundamental effect that was one of the major support of developing life on Earth in the current form. So the greenhouse effect is something that was extremely beneficial for the evolution of life on Earth, but it depends up to where. And the increase of the CO2, let's say, accumulation in the atmosphere is generating now a plethora of different problems. So from this figure, we can see that the crucial contribution to the accumulation of CO2 in the atmosphere is coming from the fossil fuels. We are here in the land of fire. We are here in the land that traditionally is defined itself as the resource of oil and gas for the humanity. But at the same time, we have to accept that bringing these fossil resources from the bottom of the earth and to burn it and to raise it into the atmosphere, it is a process that maybe in the past was in the capacity of the environment to adapt to it, but more and more is overpassing this capacity. And overpassing is the problem of climate change. You know very well all problems of climate change and these aspects of climate change that are covering the whole regions of the earth. So there is not a region that will be a gain or a region that will be a loser. So all regions will pass through this process of changes. And in this figure, you can see that, let's say, in the coming 100 years, the changes will affect the resources, and crucially, for instance, is the resource of water. So the depletion of water in our region, Black Sea and Caspian regions, will reach, let's say, figures that can go up to minus 40% scarcity of water. So all these problems of climate change have different consequences on, let's say, aspects of Earth reaction to all these processes. And in this context, we need to change this way of considering. So the problem of shifting from fossil fuel to renewable energy and sustainable energy, it is a must, a need that is now developing as a process. And you know very well that at present there are many, let's say, policies and activities related to this aspect. So I don't want to go too much into detail. I know that most of you are familiar with the aspects of sustainability and what means sustainable energy from the perspective of having this mix of strategies on improving efficiency, consistency, and sufficiency. The scales in which we are applying this kind of, let's say, aspects of sustainability aspects related to the need of a paradigm shift where we were looking up to now to global processes, taking, let's say, the fossil fuel from here in Azerbaijan and burning it in Romania or in Western Europe. Now it is more and more clear that the new paradigm, it will be on localized loops of energy. So the whole world is a complex system, and what we need in the coming period is to address this complexity. So I would like to, let's say, stop here and pass now to Professor Kunduri. I wanted to introduce this complexity, and maybe from your side now you could add to these aspects, Phoebe. What do you think?
Thank you. Yes, of course. Thank you very much. It's really a very good introduction to what I'm gonna say. I see that you can see my slides now, so I will just continue from where you left it. Indeed, climate change is one of the many crises that we are facing at the moment. Together, of course, with the pandemic, the economic recession, the biodiversity collapse, the population crisis that you referred to as well, and on top of everything else, the geopolitical crisis. We know, however, that the world is only as resilient as the least resilient country and person. So we need to work on a global level. And then, as you said, downscale the solution pathways in order to simultaneously handle and respond to these multiple crises. The aim is to reach the Agenda 2030 of the UN, the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, that are basically an investment program for countries to downscale to their national needs and help them accelerate the process towards the future that we want, towards a sustainable future, a sustainable interaction between society, economy, and nature. And for this reason, as United Nations Sustainable Development Solutions Network, we are launching with Jeff Sachs, the president of the network, the Global Climate Hub. The mission of the hub is exactly to help countries and governments provide to them science-based advice for combating the aggravating climate crisis and preventing further deterioration. So the mission in focus on both mitigation and adaptation to climate change in order to reduce the effects of extreme weather catastrophes, extreme weather events, and in terms of floods, in terms of forest fires, in terms of heat waves, and so on. So our Global Climate Hub will use the existing extensive data, knowledge, and technologies provided by experts in various fields to implement country-specific action plans to adopt and reinforced by society. If we look at the Sustainable Development Report of 2022 of SDSN, and we focus on SDG 13, we can clearly see that there is a lot of challenges with regards to implementing this SDG 13 on climate action, and most of the developed world is really facing major challenges. You can see that in red color. And the picture with regards to what will happen in 2030, assuming that we are going to implement the existing policies, does not look very good either, because we see here that most of the world, or at least a big part of the world, will still be facing challenges with regards to implementing the climate action, sustainable development, and goal. I came from COP26 quite satisfied for the first time, not just because we had stronger commitments to reduce emissions and to keep global temperature rise to 1.5 degrees, like we agreed in the Paris Agreement of 2015, not just because 40 countries have agreed to climate neutrality by 2050, China 2060 and India 2070, but because for the first time in the many COPs that I have attended and participated in, for the first time, I've seen the business sector and the financial sector engaging in the solution pathways, engaging in renewables and circular economy and nature-based solutions and digitalization and climate adaptation projects. And they are engaging because the technological advancements are of such pace that it made it cost efficient to turn to climate neutral or low impact solutions. It is now cheaper to use renewables than fossil fuels. The circular economy is creating huge cost efficient opportunities. So the business sector and the financial sector are seeing a wealth of opportunities for profits in this decarbonization transition. And this is what makes me hopeful for an acceleration of the project, because indeed we need to accelerate the process to climate neutrality, because even under the most optimistic scenario, with all the pledges and full implementation of all announced targets, still by 2100, we will not be able to achieve the 1.5 degrees Celsius target. You can see here that even under the most optimistic scenario, we are on average going to achieve 1.8 degrees Celsius. And this is very worrying, because not achieving the targets means losing hundreds of billions of dollars every year in lost infrastructure, but also and importantly, losing human lives to extreme weather events, sea level rise, and so on. The objectives, the firm objectives of the Global Climate Hub are to develop an infrastructure for modeling decarbonization for governments, and this will enable them to co-design with us local pathways for this decarbonization. And we are not just going to co-design with them, but our aim and ambition is to provide dedicated support and capacity building programs for all the governments across the world, so that they become owners of this development of the local pathways to decarbonization. We're going to compile existing decarbonization models like En-ROUTES in collaboration with MIT. We are going to develop IC tools to visualize and easily manage climate change data in collaboration with the Association for Computing Machinery, which is the biggest association on information technology in the world. We're going to identify necessary technological benchmarks to ensure we meet the Paris Agreement, and we are going to be in direct contact with the UNSDSN Council of Engineers. I know Nikos Theodosiou is part of it, but the whole selection process was really an impressive mixture of different engineers across the world that are willing to provide their services for identifying technological solutions that can accelerate the transition to sustainability, not just climate neutrality. And we will also develop tools to assist governments in the use of all of the above through I4EA, which is the cluster of excellence on research and innovation, on sustainability that I lead, including 4 different research centers and 3 big European accelerators, technological accelerators that help incubate spin-offs and startups in order to quickly, massively deploy their innovations so that the society can adopt them, the businesses can adopt them, and we are able to lower our climate footprint. Also in this effort, the European Association of Environmental Resource Economies that I am the elected president will engage in providing and developing and evaluating financial tools for supporting this transition. We will also collaborate with the Food, Environment, Land and Development Action Targets and Climate Action Targets and the SDSN Senior Working Group on the European Green Deal that I lead with Jeff in order to increase knowledge on available climate change policy instruments and in order to assist and contribute on ongoing policy mapping. We know that in order to achieve on time this huge transformation, this unprecedented transformation that is asked of us in order to become sustainable and safeguard our standard of living, we need to really engage in transformational systems innovation. It's not enough to achieve incremental change. We cannot be focused on project finance models and single projects and siloed and fragmented activities. We need to work in portfolio finance models, and we need to understand that we need to handle portfolio of connected innovation products that learn from each other and that there is wide appreciation of change levels. So the transition to decarbonization and climate resilience should be conceived on a systems approach, simultaneously addressing multiple objectives and promoting the right mixture of policy instruments and technological solutions that can be used across the various sectors of the economy and reinforced by society. So we are looking at a dynamic and cross-sectional over space, a pathway for technological solutions for each country, financial support for these solutions, and policy support for these solutions. Our first basic model will be En-ROADS from MIT in collaboration with MIT, which is a system dynamics modeling a simulator that allows to explore pathways on a global problem, pathways on policy, technological, and societal shifts. In this global model, you have the different global sources of primary energy, and then you have greenhouse gas net emissions, and then you can simulate the effect on global temperature, and then using IPCC scenarios, you can map the effects of different evolutions of global temperature on different locations across the globe. The model emphasizes the systems-wide interaction of policies and reveals the dynamic interactions between different levels, such as energy efficiency, water, food, energy nexus, renewable energy, and of course, it incorporates feedback loops that are quite significant for the end result. What the Climate Hub will work further on is to co-design national and subnational pathways and transpose them into investment programs within the 6th transformation of the UN SDSN. So we're going to downscale the global model at national and corporate level. We're going to expand systems dynamic modeling modules and technological advancements at sectoral level. And we're going to integrate the value of ecosystem to the existing updated modules. So going slowly over this, and I'm closing with this, we are going to co-design. This means that we are going to engage the global network of SDSN. We are going to engage the hub of each and every country, and we want your interest and your engagement for this. in order to co-design with them using our tools, data, and methodology, workable pathways that the stakeholders within the country, the politicians, the policymakers, the business sector, the financial sector, the civil society approve and engage with. And we are going to integrate in our pathways the value of natural capital and social capital. We all know that in order to produce something, we need produce capital, but we also need the ecosystem services of nature, and we need human capital, our knowledge, expertise, and skills, together with the social capital, the social governance that is instrumental for effectively facilitating the implementation of any project. In this particular section, we are going to use the methodology that we developed and implemented across European ecosystem services in order to derive the marginal willingness to pay for the different ecosystem services of natural capital in different countries. What is interesting to see is that the willingness to pay for natural capital is positively correlated with the performance with regards to the SDGs. So countries that perform well with regards to the SDGs are the countries that value their natural capital, that recognize the value of their natural capital in their welfare. Finally, we are going to present our results within the 6 transformations that we've announced as UNSDSN during the Climate Week of 2019. These are the 6 transformations that can operationalize the 17 SDGs and the 169 targets within them. And they refer to education, gender and inequality; second, health, well-being and demography; third, energy decarbonization, sustainable industry; fourth, sustainable food, land, water and oceans; fifth, sustainable cities and communities; and sixth, the digital revolution to sustainable development. It is important to organize the SDG investment program in these transformations because they correspond to the way governments are structured. So you have a ministry in mind when you are thinking of the investment program that will achieve each of these 6 transformations. When we did this exercise for European Green Deal policies, we've discovered that European Green Deal policies support transformation 4 and 3, sustainable food, land, water and oceans, and energy decarbonization, but less so the transformations that are relevant for social cohesion, education, and well-being. So it is important when we are constructing pathways to be holistic enough to follow the SDGs, because without social cohesion, no transformation, no investment program will be achieved. Here, I just sketch the different programs that SDSN has on climate, energy, data for decarbonization, SDG financing, and so on, so that you can see that we have a wealth of programs and projects on which this whole effort will be based. And within Europe, I co-chair the SDSN Europe, that has 3 major initiatives: the measurement of SDG performance in European countries, the initiative on financing the joint implementation of SDGs and the European Green Deal, and the Forces initiative co-led by Nikos Theodosiou, where we try to identify sustainable pathways for the Mediterranean, the Black Sea, the Caspian, and the Aral Sea. On this note, I thank you for having me, and I stop here.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Kunduri. Brilliant presentation again, as you usual make. So we would like to, first of all, tell you that during your presentation, we had a consultation with the director, Valiev, and he wanted to point that this university with the professors, the PhD students are ready to join this climate hub. and to serve even as a focal point for the Caucasus region and the Caspian area. And from that perspective, there will be also some, let's say, in detail discussion with Professor Teodosiu and with Mr. Erak after that about how this university could be also more involved. So once again, thank you very much. Thank you for your time. And of course, we shall be more collaborating from now on. Thank you.
Of course, this is exactly the spirit, to see the possible synergies and be positive one another in order to produce useful results for the society. Thank you.
Now, Professor Nicholas Tedosiou from the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki of Greece, you are welcome to make your speech. Welcome.
Mr. Rector, dear colleagues, dear students, it's really an honor for me to be here with you, to be invited in this distinguished university, and to be able to discuss with you on these issues that were set for this workshop on water, energy, and the Sustainable Development Goals. I'm really happy about that because it's not very usual to be invited in a workshop where you are connected in some way with all the topics of the workshop. I have work related with water, with energy, and the Sustainable Development Goals, and I would just give you a few information about that in order, again, as just now happened, in order to initiate more synergies between our universities, our organizations, and your university. So I would like to start from the end and take the thread from Phoebe on the Sustainable Development Goals. As Professor Mahmoud said at the introduction, I have the honor of being the chair of one of the United Nations networks, one of the regional networks. These networks are called Sustainable Development Solutions Networks, and their purpose is to provide solutions for the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. They were created by the United Nations in order to find the pathway for us, for all of us, to be able to implement the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030 or 2050, depending on the goal. So the United Nations are waiting from us, from the universities and the research centers. They are waiting from us for new ideas, new innovative ideas, because we all understand that current practices are not enough to lead us where we want to go to achieve the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. So it's for all of us, and I address also this call to the younger present here, the students, because students always have more clear ideas and more ideas that have not been tested before. So we need new ideas. We need new innovative ideas to be able to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. So our network was created in October 2018. It is called SDSN Black Sea, and it comprises 12 countries, most of the Balkan countries, all the countries all around the Black Sea, including Azerbaijan in the Caspian. So all these 12 countries were the 12 countries of the Black Sea Economic Cooperation Organization at the time. We are working with all these countries, trying to promote the collaboration in both education and research. So we are organizing webinars and several activities that have to do with education, focusing on the Sustainable Development Goals. And we are also trying to work on research projects and to connect the research that is performed within all these 12 countries and identify those that are of more interest in the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. And just to mention a few of them, we are working in some projects that they are applied in the wider area of the Black Sea, the bridge project, the doors project, and recently another project, the Arsinoe project, and I'm mentioning that because members of this very ambitious project is also the Black Sea Universities Network and the Black Sea Economic Cooperation Organization. We are 41 partners with several case studies, and one of the case studies is on the wider area of the Black Sea. So we collaborate, we as representatives of the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki in Greece, we have partners from Bulgaria, Romania, and Turkey, trying to find ways to be more climate resilient, because this is the topic of this project. Now, regarding the water sector, my friend Eden Mahmoud was very gracious to mention some of the activities have been involved in the water sector. I am the director of the water management laboratory in my department, the Department of Civil Engineering of the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki. Most of my research and teaching activities are related to water. And I have been a member of a committee that was assigned by the European Commission in order to follow the implementation of the floods directive for our protection from floods, and many other activities. Now that yesterday I had a meeting in another project, and I mentioned that I would be here today to talk to you, and they urged me to remind you or to inform you about an application that they developed. It's called SimForNexus. I'm not sure if you're acquainted with that. And it's an application, it's a serious game actually, identifying the connections between water and energy. So it's really a very important implementation. I can send you a link to that, and you can find all the dimensions that are related to water, to energy, and their nexus. It's really something very important, and it has a special application for Azerbaijan, including data from Azerbaijan. So it would be very useful for you to see it and to use it. Now, going to the energy sector, as Phoebe mentioned briefly at the end of her presentation, last Thursday, the United Nations launched a new initiative. It's called the Council of Engineers for the Energy Transition. It is something that it was asked by the Secretary General of the United Nations. It will be a council of engineers that will advise and will support directly the Secretary General of the United Nations in this very, very important problem, issue, challenge of the energy transition. And we know that since Azerbaijan is one of the main or the countries that are mainly connected with energy and energy production, energy transport, and as we know that within the last months, especially during the war, the energy crisis is of major importance and of major impact to the whole world. We expect this council to be very impactful. It's just 35 engineers from all disciplines and from all over the world that were selected to be part of this council, and I feel really honored that I am one of them. But our role is not just to represent ourselves. Our role is to represent the whole community and our whole context and environment. So again, I ask for your collaboration so that we can help in the achievement of yet this goal, the energy transition as a goal for the whole humanity. And last but not least, another thing that, another issue that we could again collaborate Again, I have the honor of being the president of the Association of European Civil Engineering Faculties. This is an association of several civil engineering faculties from all over Europe. And we are trying to connect the dots and connect the way our faculties, our civil engineering faculties operate, the way we teach our students, the goals that we set for our students, their learning outcomes, and how one can gain from the other, from the experience of all the others in focusing on our main goal that is as academics and as university professors, our main goal is always and will always be education. So through this association, the Association of Civil Engineering Faculties, we are trying to support our member universities and of course everyone else who is interested in this ambitious goal of successfully educating our students, the future of our planet, the future of our profession. So I don't want to tire you anymore. I'm available for anything and any discussion that you're interested in. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Nicholas Theodosi. And now I would like to invite Ms. Aynura Ismailova to present her presentation on sustainable development goals, university and industry collaborations. She's the head of Center for University Industry Collaboration and Lifelong Learning. You're welcome.
His Excellency Professor Vilayet Valiyev, Eden Mahmud, Professor Eden Mahmud, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It's my pleasure to be here and to welcome all of you in Azerbaijan, especially Azerbaijan Technical University. Taking this opportunity, I would like to thank all of who has contribution organization of this event. Thank you very much for all of you. Actually, presenters, professors who presented before me, they have mentioned several aspects which I will try, I'm planning to highlight here. I'm working director of the University Industry Collaboration and the Lifelong Learning Center since January. And before joining to the Azerbaijan Technical University, I graduated from the Baku State University Faculty of Applied Mathematics and Cybernetics. Then I have done my PhD studies at the Institute for Scientific Research on Economic Reforms, which operates under the Minister of Economy of the Republic of Azerbaijan. And finally, I defended my PhD thesis in March. It was on specialty of economics, econometrics and economic statistics. And at that time, I worked, I have a chance to work within the preparation of the first voluntary report of Azerbaijan in front of SDG goals, implementation of SDG goals. That's why now, why I mentioned that I'm working for the University Industrial Collaboration Center, because now I'm in this, I'm passing the stage where I'm providing need assessment on behalf of university, where we can go and how we can act in future. The main point here, as a principle set up by the Sustainable Development Goals, everyone, no one should be behind. Everyone should be in the process. And all should be done integrated and in a complex approach. And providing some need assessments, we find that here we all know that here within the Sustainable Development Goals, we have 17 goals and 169 targets. And all implementation, all targets and coordination should be done in a unique system, which is mainly burdened by statistic agencies, ministries of economy and ministries of development, and some other agencies. And of course, implementation all targets in a unique system, it's going to be quite difficult difficult process because of there are a number of indicators which we all know that all that indicators have different methodologies, and it's very difficult to collect and calculate all of them. Another main point which we realized that it's all, as mentioned in previous presentations, different countries and different bodies need assessment. And especially universities need capacity building, enlargement of analytical potential. Another point is that, as I mentioned, that universities, especially in Azerbaijan, mainly being involved in education process rather than policy implementations and policy research, something like that. Here, in having some chance in this workshop, I would like to pay all of your attention to one question or maybe a purpose for future. Let us have as already mentioned, let us have this open floor for discussion for policy decision support models. This is a building of unique platform, analytical platform for future. And we suggest that it has in here three main components: database building and data modeling based on United Nations methodologies, and providing policy support for the government. Here we can have a first component as a simulation of scenarios in a single system, and also building models according to these UN methodologies and database collection on the same methodology for all countries. Thus, after then, having this platform, analytical platform, maybe we can suggest measurement for strategy concept in compliance with national priorities and strategies. Here we can have three main targets, as mentioned on this table: integration at the national, regional, and international levels, is the establishment of statistical databases based on UN methodology, use of statistical databases based on the UN methodology. Again, along with these activities to provide continuous capacity building, especially for university and professors and students in future. That's all that I planned to say. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Aynura Hanım, for this interesting presentation. Now I would like to invite Professor Grigory Zaratodis from the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki, Greece. You're welcome to make your speech.
Esteemed Rector, Honorable Ambassador, dear colleagues and friends, I feel in a way funny being an economist among engineers. Thank God that I have also Atanas with me, who is also, actually he's more related to you because he's an energy specializing economist from the University of Sofia. Being an economist, I would like to stress out that our contribution to the discussion you are having, the discussion we are having about sustainable development, is twofold. On the one hand, we can't do without in the discussion that we're having today that in the frame of the activities of SDSN Black Sea, we have a new project, which is a project that will be also for you an opportunity to contribute. And the new project is about the creation, the establishment of an observatory for the SDGs in the Black Sea. As we have seen also in the previous presentation, observation, reporting, having a clear view of how we are proceeding, but also in the previous discussions, this is a major point towards the completion of the goals that we have set. And in that sense, an observatory which will be dealing with a periodical reporting of the way how the SDGs in the wider area of the Black Sea are evolving is of great importance. Therefore, the Black Sea Economic Cooperation, with the support also of Ambassador Christidis and with the support of Professor Mahmoud, has supported a project which now is a good instrument in our hands, a project for conducting the feasibility study and the business plan of how such an observatory could function. It is now in our hands after the collaboration we had with this project with the Financial University of Moscow. It is now in our hands to realize the observatory, and towards these new steps, I call for your collaboration and contribution. Actually, if I'm not mistaken, Nikos, tomorrow we will be dealing also about this in the workshop in the frame of the Global Forum. Another final contribution in our discussion is the strongest collaboration, the strongest as possible collaboration with economic faculties and economic universities. I'm not aware of the fact, esteemed director, if you have in your prestigious institution also a faculty or a school of economics or a department for management. Being the case or not, I'm in a position to invite you to participate in another existing association, which is also dealing with issues like that, the Association of Economic Universities, or universities with economic departments and faculties from covering the area of the Southeastern Europe, Eastern Europe, and the Black Sea. AzTU, I have the honor to chair the specific association with more than 60 universities members, over 25 years of history and activities, and your participation would be highly appreciated from our side. I really feel very happy to be here with you in such a nice atmosphere and room. We are open for the collaboration in the future months to come. And I'm also very happy to see that there are many younger faces among us. So perhaps this is also the strongest aspect of dynamism in your institution. And I'm really very glad about that. Thank you for your attention and being here for the next collaboration that we will have. Thank you.
Dear Professor Grigoris Zarotios, thank you very much for your speech. Now I would like to invite Professor Miryusi Mirbabayev to make his presentation on energy strategy, oil and production on the Caspian Sea. He's a professor in the chair of chemical technologies, recycling, ecology at Azerbaijan Technical University. You're welcome.
Dear Rector of Azerbaijan Technical University, dear scientists, ladies and gentlemen, dear guests, first of all, I would like to say that thank you very much for organizer, our rector, for such meeting, such event, because we can call this events like squares where we can discuss all economical, ecological, technological, and educational problems. This is very nice, and thank you for this opportunity for given to us. And today my brief report will be about energy strategy and oil gas production on the Caspian Sea. So the title of my report. I would like to say that since there's a currently and intensive offshore oil and gas production, environmental problems and solutions for all and oil and gas companies operating offshore should be in the first place. The importance of environmental control over the oil pollution in the Caspian Sea is obvious, especially in the implementation of offshore projects. The operation of oil the role of oil products and oil waste entering the sea has not yet been fully studied, since the oil is a mixture of various substances, of which from 50 to 90, dependence on oil field, is hydrocarbons, and rest of them is a heteroatomic compounds containing as a carbon, sulfur, nitrogen, oxygen, and microelements or trace elements. See the main operations when we have oil and gas pollution on the sea, oceans. The relevance of protecting ecology of the Caspian was clearly noted back in 1991. In 1991, June 13, 17, at the ecology of the Caspian Sea was clearly noted at first international conference on the problems of the Caspian Sea, which was held in Baku. One of the main goals of which was to reduce oil pollution of the Caspian during exploration and drilling. And so, and 30 years later, the same problems, the same, like the same conference, it was in May 27, 28, last year, in the International Scientific Forum, Caspian 21, Ways of Sustainable Development, which was held in Astrakhan, at which the problems of environmental security of the Caspian was also one of the important issues. And now on the picture, you can see the main sources, how the seas pollute by when it will be oil production or gas production, of, for example, transport of oil tankers and so. What is interesting in Astrakhan's forum, there was specially noted that the most interested player in the security of the Caspian Sea is Azerbaijan. The intensity of oil and gas production in the Caspian Sea is steadily growing. And now also, for example, the leading oil company of Azerbaijan, SOCAR, and partners in the projects to develop the Shah Deniz gas field in Azerbaijani sector of the Caspian Sea. And they signed agreement in December 2010 to extend the term of the contract for this field until 2036. And the previous contract was valid until 2031. What it means? It means that oil production is increasing. When oil and gas production increase, and this, it's understand that the oil pollutant and oil pollutants in sea increase also. For example, about this conferences, see the connection between the times. 91, first contention in Baku was, and last year in Astrakhan. So about Shah Deniz. Shah Deniz is a gas oil field, and the rig is very modern, very beautiful. It's BP construction, and it's the main gas source on the Caspian Sea in Azerbaijan sector of gas. Here you can see some data about 164 billion cubic meters of gas and about 37 million tons of condensate since start. What you must say also. This is you can see the picture of TANAP. TANAP is the Trans-Anatolian pipeline and connected with the TAP. TAP is a Trans-Adriatic pipeline. And back to September 2017, an old strategy for the oil and gas industry of Azerbaijan until 2050, remember the number, 2050, was defined already and approved. And on May 29, 2018, the launch ceremony of the first stage of South Gas Corridor, CSGS, took place in Baku. The first gas from Azerbaijan, Shah Deniz field, Sangachal terminal expanded to Shah Deniz field through the expanded South Gas Caucasus gas pipeline. The next stage was the commissioning of the TANAP, as we say, Trans-Anatolian pipeline, through which the gas is transported to Turkey and further to Europe. Recall, okay, this is a TAP, Trans-Adriatic pipeline, constructed, data, and operating some data. Recall that the TANAP pipeline will, with length up to 2,000 kilometers, together with another gas pipeline, KAP, is part of the South Gas Corridor project, which provides for transportation of gas from the Shah Deniz field to Europe. The initial capacity of the TANAP pipeline is 16 billion cubic meters of gas per year, of which 6 billion cubic meters are supplied to Turkey and the rest to Europe. Trans-Adriatic pipeline, very modern pipeline, fashionable. This is Shah Deniz gas field. This is TANAP. All data you can see. And you can see Baku, from Baku goes through Turkey and then to Europe, Bulgaria, Greece, and Italy. By September 21 last year, Azerbaijani gas supplies via KAP reached 5 billion cubic meters. It was predicted that the volume of 5 billion cubic meters of gas would reach only by the end of 2021. But this figure was reached already in September. So, gents, you see, the 3 months was before. This is a phenomenal success for TAP's activity. The phenomenal success for the Azerbaijani gas pipeline is explained by many factors, but the main one is the wise energy strategy of our President Ilham Aliyev. The success of South Gas Corridor is milestone event for Europe, whose energy security receives serious guarantees with its launch. At the first stage, the gas produced within the second phase of the development of Shah Deniz field is considered as the main source, but at later stage, other sources are already connected to the project. This is correct. For example, Baku-Tbilisi-Ceyhan pipeline, oil pipeline. At present, only Azerbaijan, not only Azerbaijan, but also Kazakhstan, oil is transported through it. It is possible that gas from the Dostluk field, which will be jointly developed by Azerbaijan and Turkmenistan, can also go through the South Gas Corridor. And what is interesting, President Ilham Aliyev stressed at the recent Baku Energy Week that the South Gas Corridor is a project that we can be proud of. The South Gas Corridor, with a length of 3,500 kilometers, has been one of the largest infrastructure projects in the 21st century. It's a unique project. It should be noted that environmental impact assessment makes it possible to take into account the requirements of environmental safety and prevent possible technologies risk, even at the stage of designing production facilities. About South Gas Corridor, the unique project and in the 21st century. All data is there. Obviously, the intensity of development of oil and gas production is typical for all the Caspian countries, all 5 Caspian countries. At last, I would like to tell that the environmental control of pollution of the Caspian Sea with intensive oil and gas production is necessary to prevent marine pollution. This was also said at the 23rd General Assembly of the Association of State Universities and Research Centers of the Caspian countries held in December 2-3 last year in AzTU, Kazakhstan. Finally, I would like to end my speech like this. Romania and Azerbaijan can jointly participate in projects related to the South Gas Corridor and the creation of a green bridge between 2 seas, the Caspian Sea and Black Sea. This was said in 9 of June this year by Romanian Energy Minister Vigil Daniel Popescu at the Baku Energy Week take place in Baku. So thank you very much for attention.
Dear Professor Mir Yusuf Melim, thank you very much for your valuable speech and presentation. Now I would like to invite Professor Sergei Belyakov from the Zaporozhye Polytechnical National University of Ukraine. You're welcome to make your speech.
Respected Professor Valiev, Your Excellency Ambassador, dear friends, dear staff of Azerbaijan Technical University, respected students, the problems of water and energy security is really important for such a region as my Zaporozhye district and city of Zaporozhye, since it's really the industrial and historical heart of Ukraine. Since the erection of hydroelectric station in Zaporozhye in 1930, a lot of huge industrial enterprises were built, like Zaporozhye steel plant, Dnipro special steel plant, aluminum combinate, coke plant, automobile plants, very large aviation engines enterprise, Motor Sich, that produces aviation engines for Antonov Ukrainian plants, a lot of Russian airplanes, including Ilyushin, all Russian helicopters, and now they started production of Ukrainian helicopters, as it was never done in the Soviet Union before, because helicopters were produced in Russia and engines in Ukraine. So the problem of this complex really started being very dangerous since 24th of February this year. Because quite unexpected war that was named in, according to President Putin, a special operation, but it's a real war against Ukraine in different parts, not on Donbass as it was announced, but attack on Kiev, Sumy, Kharkiv, Mariupol, Zaporozhye district, occupation of Kherson very soon, attacking on Odessa. The problem is that the idea of this operation was announced to defend Russian-speaking society against neo-Nazists or something like that. And still, the attack was on Russian-speaking region. All these cities, Kharkiv, Sumy, Zaporizhia, Odessa, Russian-speaking regions. And they destroyed Mariupol. It's Russian-speaking and plus great Greek society existed in this city. So the problem of sustainable development now, it's not the problem of sustainable development, it's the problem of existence or not, of greatest energetical sources in Zaporozhye district. Now Zaporozhye district is occupied by 60%, including cities of Berdyansk, Primorsk, Melitopol, and city Energodar. Energodar is the city where is the largest in Europe atomic station and one of the largest in Europe heat station. We are now, the Ukraine possesses no Azov coast. It's all occupied with wind stations that started 10 years ago. And also solar station in Tokmak is also under occupation. It's very dangerous because under the provision of occupational power, still atomic station works. It produces an electric energy, and it's just by chance any missile can fly and attack this station. And it's not necessary to use atomic weapon. It's necessary by chance to expect that some old missile, because now Russia wasted quite a lot of this, the model, and they use any year of production. It's very dangerous to expect what can happen, what catastrophe can be. Now in Ukraine, in fact, we have humanitarian catastrophe. With more than 6 million people are now abroad in Poland, Germany, Italy, practically every European country. More than 1.5 million were transported to Russia. We say under force, they say on their willingness, but still, more about 7 million are abroad. I think more than 2 millions shifted from southwest, southeastern regions, from Zaporozhye, Donetsk regions, Kherson to Lviv, Chernivtsi, to the west of Ukraine. And that creates really very, very dangerous situation. I'm really thankful to organizers of this 9th Baku Global Forum that we started discussion. The panel number 1 was devoted to the situation in Ukraine, problems of war, problems of refugees, problems of reconstruction. But to start speaking of reconstruction, to start speaking of, responsibility for these war crimes, for this attack, it's not in time. The most important thing now to stop the military activities. The question was in this first panel formulated: what can be victory for Ukraine? And our specialists say, yes, we can win. And what's the price for defeat of Russia? That's the question. And until now, I spoke with representative of Slovakia, foreign minister of Slovakia in 20s. The same question was between us. He studied in Moscow. He worked in Moscow in embassy of Czechoslovakia in Moscow. He was also a special envoy by UN Secretary General to many hot points: Libya, Lebanon, Afghanistan, etc. So we spoke 1.5 hours, and until now, there is no answer for this question. What is the victory and what is the defeat? The humanity can be defeated. Really, it was great that European countries support, not the European Council, NATO, states, they support Ukraine. But every day of this war, today I think it's 114th, if I maybe 13th, maybe 15th, maybe I can make a mistake. Every day brings losses. The question is where to stop. On frontiers as it exists now, it's practically impossible because Russia, occupying 7% of our territories before 24th, it's Crimea and Donetsk, Lugansk, not fully. Now practically all Donetsk, Lugansk district, and 75, 80% of Donetsk district, 60% of Zaporozhye district, practically all Kherson district, and that it's about 20% of the whole territory of Ukraine. To come back to 24th February, I think it's not for Ukraine. Going to deoccupy Sevastopol and Crimea, also it's very, very, very unexpected idea. It will destroy a lot of Ukrainian cities. It can destroy Crimea. You see, 33 years ago, it was very popular to visit West Berlin, Berlin as a whole, and collect fragments of Berlin Wall. I visited several times. At the time, I have friends in West Berlin. They were excited for reunification, and every time they presented me fragments of the wall. I think so. there were so many fragments found and sold that it's possible to erect 3, 4, 5, or maybe more burial walls. Unfortunately, now in Ukraine, in city of Zaporozhye, we have these fragments of missiles. Zaporozhye is not now damaged hugely. Maybe 10, 12 missiles were effective. Also, they attacked Motor Sich, they attacked Construction Bureau Yushchenko Progress on aviation engines. But compared to destruction of Mariupol, it's not so. But we are only 40 kilometers from the frontier. So we're really thankful to all people who support Ukraine. I hope the war stops. And after that, we'll come back to the problems of sustainable development in Ukraine. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Sergei Belyakov. We very hope that the war in Ukraine will come to an end and where Ukrainian people will live in peace and prosperity in the near future. We pray for Ukrainian people. And now I would like to give a speech to Andrea Irak, and from networks manager from Sustainable Development Solutions Network. You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Dear colleagues, dear friends, it is a pleasure to be here with all of you. Indeed, just like you said, I believe that we have to return to peace as soon as possible in order for Ukraine, for Azerbaijan, for everyone in the world to be able to focus on our planetary crisis and work on resolving the sustainability and biodiversity collapse that our planet is facing. Of course, without peace, it is very hard to even conceive, to advance on such important and complex issues on which we need all minds around the world to connect, to collaborate, to work with each other. So it is a very difficult moment for Ukraine and for the world, but we have to employ all our efforts towards finding a peaceful solution as soon as possible, and returning to as you said, a successful path for the Ukrainian people. I myself come from Paris, from the UN SDSN, an organization that has been mentioned here by several colleagues. I won't be very long. I would just like to highlight a couple of things that for which we would really be delighted to have the Azerbaijani Technical University join us, and things on which we could collaborate. UNSDSN, it is an initiative of the UN, started in 2012 with the idea to bring together universities, research centers, think tanks, NGOs around the world to come up with very specific technical solutions coming out of local, regional, and worldwide expertise and specialists. Today, we unite over 1,600 member institutions. We call them knowledge institutions because they produce knowledge on sustainability, and I am very impressed to have seen the presentations of our Azerbaijani colleagues and the research that you have already conducted in this area. And very concretely, we would be delighted to support your work in this area. I don't believe that the Technical University is already member of SDSN, so I would like to encourage you to become our member. It is a very simple procedure, and very soon we would be able to include you in this global network of solution makers. It is a simple form to be filled, and I can see very well Mrs. Ismailova is our focal point for collaborating on this. So number one, please join us and become our SDSN member. Number two, when you join, please, we would be delighted to have students of this university also join what we call SDSN Youth. It is a youth network for sustainable development. It is a network where students from all around the world, but in particular, we have one specific youth network, which is the SDSN Black Sea, in which all of you can contribute by localizing the SDGs in Azerbaijan, in Baku, and in your university and within your faculty. Next, I would also be happy for us to share with you the big platform that we have developed of online courses, so-called MOOCs, that professors here at the university can easily integrate into their teachings and that concern very specific SDGs, ranging from energy, water, and so on, and addressing these complex issues with other researchers and professors around the world. In particular, we have at least 2 courses, for example, on the governance of water resources, of governance of transboundary water resources, salty water, fresh water, and also a special course on addressing the global crisis related to water. Regarding energy, for example, we are conducting policy research on deep decarbonization efforts for different countries. So if parts of your university are also working on these issues, we have developed models and the methodologies that can easily be replicated. And as Professor Konduri mentioned within the Climate Hub that we are also going to be supporting, we would be delighted to engage with that. And last but not the least, together with some of our 48 national and regional networks around the world that gather together knowledge institutions, we have also developed a guide, a handbook for universities to implement the SDGs, to scan what is already being done in terms of sustainability within your university, how concretely you are contributing to the SDGs in terms of your own CO2 footprint and others, but also the way that you are teaching sustainability and the way students organize and engage with the rest of the society and their community to advance on these issues. So that is all very, very briefly. I would be more delighted for us to stay in touch and offer as much support and help as we can, and we would also be delighted to have you share your best practices and your existing research with other parts of the Black Sea Network, with other parts of the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrei Irak. Thank you very much for your valuable speech. And now we are coming to end of the session, and I would like to ask you all audience whether they have any questions. Yeah, something to add, maybe.
Hello, dear guests. I'm Hacı Yavanar, and I study for PhD in Azerbaijan Technical University and work as a senior lecturer here. I have 2 questions to our guests. First one, we talk about climate change, about rising of temperature and other climate factors, which will happen in 2100. what will happen after all of this? For example, all of our steps can't help us to slow of the rising of temperature. What will happen? We will see the collapse of our world, or we will continue our life. For example, my grandsons can't live in this world, or we will live but in a different situation. And I have another one question. Can I?
Then continue. Yeah, who will answer that? Yeah, you.
Thank you very much. I'm using the occasion to thank you for this conference and to thank the rector. You are asking about whether we are sure and what will happen in 8 years. The problem and the challenge is that some things will happen and already happen sooner. And we are talking about 17 different goals related to sustainable development. So environment is one of them. If we tackle environment by itself, this is function by the way we produce and consume energy, food, services, industrial goods. And if you look at the energy content of food, this is even a bigger challenge than whether or not here climate will change exactly in Azerbaijan in a very specific way. So we have to think about all the aspects of our way of life. And this is what these goals tell us to do. And from the models we see, maybe the worst effects will be south from here, but this doesn't mean that our life will get better or stay the same if millions of people don't have food, don't have water, don't have a home when it is affected. So this is just a reminder that we all live on the same planet and we are getting more and more and we have to use our resources. So this on the first question, I think that answers it.
And I have a second question. Maybe it will look like some political question, but I want to ask it. Here we have a lot of requests from Greece. Something 10 years ago, Azerbaijan joined the tender about Greece gas company, DESFA. Today we talk about energy security, okay? We talk about energy security of countries around Black Sea and including Greece. 10 years ago, we joined the tender about the selling of the Greece gas company DESFA, and we win. Our gas company SOCAR wins this tender. Our government pay $40 million for it, but something go wrong. Greece government changed their mind and don't accept our project about buying all of the control packet of DESFA. Today in 2022, we talk about energy security of Europe and Greece. Okay, we can't cover all the gas or energy security of Greece, but we, for example, we cover the main part of energy security of Georgia, of Turkey, some part of energy security of Italy, some other countries of the Balkan, which located in Balkans. We can transfer the energy resources from Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, but Greece make another choice. What's your vision about the situation? 10 years ago, Greece government make right choice or how? We can't say wrong, of course.
Let let not the politicians or the diplomats answer the question because it may be sensitive. The academicians are more free to speak and to say perhaps also mistakes sometimes. All right, first of all, I don't see the connection. I don't see the connection between securing the import of natural gas with selling shares of the national company that is dealing with the promotion and the service of natural gas in Greece to the foreign. So one thing is the question why the Greek government changed its mind. Another thing is securing the natural gas service in the promotion in Greece, the energy promotion. Now, another thing that I would like also to say is in our days, we speak about energy sufficient supply. But at the same time, and this was something that I wanted to say in my initial speech, but I forgot. At the same time, we speak about energy, about transformation of the energy model. And actually, for me, the future of Greece, but not only the future of Greece, the future of all societies towards the goals that have been set and reminded to us by Professor Konduri, would be not to secure its supply of energy sources, but also to change the energy source. And this transformation of energy sources would mean also the transformation in the receiving economies, but also in the selling economies. And I think that for Azerbaijan and for all exporting economies of natural gas and of petrol, it is also a question of how they see the transformation in terms of substituting this type of economic activity with others. And I suppose that this has to be answered in a very short time. Okay. In any case, surely shortage of energy resources for Greece at the present is very crucial, and the increase of prices is also very crucial. But this is something that not only Greece has to deal with. I suppose that the whole of Europe has to deal with.
Who else?
Dear guests, hi, my name is Hussein. I am a senior consultant at Ministry of Economy of Azerbaijan. By the way, I am a PhD student at Azerbaijan Technical University. I graduated from Bilkent University in Turkey, which is famous research university, and from Netherlands, I studied the master program on technology and operation management. And my question is from my field, from industrial engineering, which is basically, as you may know, about efficiency. We try to optimize things to make things work better. So you mentioned about transformation, sustainable development, and all the things, but I'm interested in how are you going to implement them? Like, do you use any combinatorial optimization tools there, like engineering, applied mathematics here to optimize the things, how you will implement infrastructure, for example, for e-vehicles, for electrical vehicles. Nowadays, it's important that they have charging infrastructure. But the thing is that currently we don't have infrastructure, and our aim as engineers is to build a model that will find optimal infrastructure for them. So my first question, whether you use such models in your research. And the second question is about economy. My question is directly to you, Mr. How do you think what this transformation will bring to our real GDP, gross domestic product? Because increasing government spending may have impact on fiscal balance, and that may have a shift in aggregate demand, and therefore we may have inflation at the end, and in this case people will suffer more and more. And from one side we think about environment, but on the other hand, we lose from people like society. So there is a trade-off. Thank you for taking time and coming to back.
So Phoebe, would you like you to answer to the first question? The microphone, you have to open it.
Okay, so first of all, thank you for this very interesting session. All the presentations were interesting, and the interaction now is indeed very, very stimulating. The solution pathways that we are looking for in any transition to sustainability, as I said before, are a mixture of technological solutions, social solutions, including existing ones, and including future ones that are currently at TRLs that are not directly deployable. And these solution pathways, we call them, this mixture of technological and social solutions are also supported by financial solutions, financial instruments, and supported by policies. So implementation is achieved via the creation of the correct policy framework, which can engage all the stakeholders in a country, in a region, in a local authority, in developing this optimal mixture of technological and social solutions. So technology is important, governance is important, and I think it's quite important to understand that caring about the environment is just caring about natural capital. So when you are producing something or consuming something, you are basically using natural capital, human capital, and produce capital. You cannot really develop without understanding each source of capital, valuing each source of capital, monetizing each source of capital, and using it optimally. So the idea here is that we are going to use optimally all resources so that the produced growth, the positive growth multipliers, and the positive job multipliers that we derive from this transformation will be positive in all aspects, in the economic aspect, in the environmental footprint aspect, and in the social footprint aspect. So we are trying to devise pathways that will assure economic growth, measured not just in terms of GDP and profit, but also measures in terms of environmental quality, which means health quality, which means natural capital quality and quantity that can in turn support the production or higher production and then creation of higher jobs. So it's a more elaborate, more holistic model of growth that supports profits, supports growth, supports job creation by without destroying natural capital and by focusing on social cohesion. We know that the public money in the world is not enough to implement the SDGs. We know that. That's why it is crucial to convince the private sector to come in and make investments in the real economy and create efficient public-private partnerships in order to accelerate the process to the SDGs. And the private sector will come in and has already started being engaged in this transition because it can see the plethora of profit opportunities. So it is possible, and this is what we are arguing here when we are talking about sustainable development. It is possible to increase growth, to increase jobs, to protect natural capital, and to support social cohesion. You just need to be holistic in the way you measure and understand this transformation. And this is exactly the focus of this year's senior working group on the joint implementation of the SDGs and the European Green Deal. And I will close by saying that econometric results of analysis of the performance of companies, now we're talking at the business level, show that good environmental performance is correlated with good financial performance and lower systemic risk for these companies. So it can happen. It's just a more inclusive, a more holistic model.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Phoebe. So now from an engineering point of view, so coming more specifically to the aspects that you mentioned regarding the need for improving the efficiency and how this process can be addressed in the sense that was presented by Professor Kunduri, I would like to say that the complexity of all these aspects of transition is so high that it requires a very tight and close integration of different disciplines in this process. So from engineering side, we are developing particularly two types of modeling. The first one is about the proper description of the value of energy. And here we are using exergy, that is the measure of what is useful in a specific stream of energy. And at present, we could say that the exergy modeling was very well detailed and developed. And at present, we are even able to use exergy for modeling the environmental impact of different industrial processes. We are able to use and evaluate the quality of different energy and material streams. Of course, the second approach is about the multi-scale modeling, because you have, for instance, in the energy level, you have the level of equipment, then you have the level of infrastructures of a certain regional or national level, and of course, then you have the level of an economy and so on. So for each of these scales, you need different models, and for that reason, there are these multi-scale models where you are aggregating using a new type of mathematics. We are talking about quaternionic algebras, where we are aggregating different types of indicators in order to evaluate different, let's say, sustainability aspects, econometric aspect, or different other aspects. So this is from our side of the engineers. Yes, of course, we are also using the optimization tools. And here is the effort of mathematicians that have to provide and give, let's say, a lot of effort in making these mathematical models. As you know, only when you have an optimization model with one variable, well, that's something that we know. But when you go to two variables, then it becomes a very complicated and sophisticated mathematical problem. So from that perspective, it is that important to have these elements bringing together. Of course, then we move towards our economic colleagues, because then we have to quantify and to internalize the externality. And the externalities, of course, we are talking about externalities on environmental impact. Nobody up to now quantified the externality that was consisting on the impact of CO2 emissions on the change of climate in a certain region. So for that, we are, let's say, shaking hands with our colleagues, economists, in order to internalize these processes. And with this, we are arriving to your second question, which is extremely important, because in today's world, you can be rich, having a very significant, let's say, stockpile of different resources, but then you discover that you cannot spend that income very easily and very, how can I say, according to your desire, because then it could affect yourself. So I'm passing to my colleague economist to say why and how this process of, let's say, even spending something that you have in your pocket can be your enemy.
First of all, I'm happy that Phoebe contributed already to answering the question that has been raised. And I just want to add 3 minor comments coming up with the question of Eden and also to the major comment and response of Phoebe. First of all, what we have in our time is not only inflation. We are running into stagflation, which means we have stagnation with inflation together. Therefore, don't be afraid of increasing spendings of private or public sector. Inflation of our time is not a demand-driven phenomenon. It's a phenomenon of the crisis, of the multiple crises that we are facing, which affects the cost of production. So therefore, don't be afraid of that. Quite the opposite. We should go in the opposite direction to fight that type of inflation with a positive, progressive, and sustainable growth, as has been raised already as an issue. Yes, but exactly. But at the present, the problem that generates inflation is not the huge demand.
Are you addressing me? Are you addressing me? No. Okay.
No. In any case, okay, let me complete the answer and then perhaps the discussion can follow. Just final point to complete my point. Inflation is not demand driven at the present. Don't be afraid of strengthening demand, okay? The second thing is, I think it's very clear to what Phoebe said. The problem of our time is the existence of not only enough money, the existence of too much money. So if you sum up the derivatives all around the world, you will come up with a financial capital being 25 times, in best case, of the annually produced output. So what we have to find out is ways, channels where this money is in our pockets can be used in a progressive, sustainable way. And financing from the private or the public sector, financing projects that will deal with the transformation, with the transition of our economy and our society in a sustainable way, is a way of giving a way out of this deadlock for the unexpectedly and quite out of any sense increased financial capital over accumulated capital in our times. The third point is that there is another issue that we have to deal with respect to international economics. OECD, since 10 or 15 years, is screaming for the major problem of increasing inequality. We are growing in an unequal way, a title of one of its reports. And inequality, the growing inequality, is not only a problem of socioeconomic sustainability, it is also strengthening the problems of environmental sustainability as it strengthens the way how in an inefficient way we use our energy resources.
So in that sense, the third point that I would like to make is that a policy, an international policy towards the improvement of cross-national, spatial, but also the improvement of social inequality is in the direction of improving economic efficiency and environmental sustainability as well.
Thank you for such an interesting discussions and questions and answers. And now I would like to invite Professor Edem Mahmoud to give for closing remarks, please. Thank you.
Evet, güzel geçti değil mi? Beğendiniz? Evet. So it has been a very nice event. We passed over, and actually our intent, it was not to give answers to all our questions, but most and more important, it was to open the floor for some cooperative connections, some type of activities and ideas that could follow. So it is one aspect which is very valid here in Azerbaijan, because always an Azerbaijani person could say, well, the whole world is an energy crisis and they are looking for gas and oil. We have gas and oil. So we are in such a very, how can I say, good position. And why we have to worry for? Well, today we have shown that you have to worry. So when the whole world is worrying, when we have seen that this world is like a small village, is not that big that you cannot see the limits, when we see that the connectivities among us is so tight, then the problems of environment, problems regarding, let's say, the technological developments and economical aspects are very interrelated, and aspects that could be, let's say, very beneficial from one point could immediately turn into something very, very negative. But in all this complexity, our intent, it was the message that we are together. So we are willing to cooperate. We are opening frameworks for cooperation, and we would like to initiate projects together with you. There are subjects that might be of interest for you. There are subjects that might be of interest for the other partners in the region. The most important thing is to come together and to exchange ideas. And sometimes this process will be a win-win situation. So once again, thank you very much for participating, for being together here. We shall pass over these top topics and proposals that have been raised during this event. So we know clear now that the Azerbaijan Technical University is going to be part of the SDSN, also that is going to be part of the climate hub, and in this process we are already defining different projects. We shall let's say, invite the research groups from here in some of the projects that we are developing. For instance, in our area that you raised, we are developing in Romania, for instance, different models for improving the efficiency at the level of the national economy or at the level of different industrial sectors, and many other aspects. For instance, I was discussing with Rector Valiev about projects on hydrogen energy and so on. So once again, thank you very much. We hope that this will be, let's say, a nice point to remember when we shall write our future projects. Thank you.